Since we can't go to the movies anymore, I guess this is the next best thing? Let's get started.
Ba-da-ba-ba-da-ba-ba.
Hello, my friends. Welcome to Thumb Together TV. My name is Andrew Fantasia, and today we're going to be talking about Westworld Season 3, Episode 5, Genre Together. As usual, if you enjoyed this video, please feel free to give it a thumbs up and give some love to that subscribe button as well. When I walked away from last night's episode, for a second I was like, is this my least favorite episode of Westworld? Because at first, I honestly didn't get it. The whole thing revolves around the fact that Caleb is involuntarily injected with this designer drug called genre, and for the entirety of the episode, he is tripping balls. And to me, I just thought, in a show that's already complicated enough to understand, like Westworld, in a show that is literally a mental maze that you have to figure out every week, do we really need to add to the confusion by having one of our lead characters just tripping out the whole time? Like, I was like, really? Come on, man. But the thing is, the trip was a clue. Wow, that sounds weird when you say it out loud. Here's the way genre works. It makes you hear 5 different movie-based musical cues. That's the in-universe explanation. Giggles shows up, he's got his mood shirt again, and he's like, yo, this is how it works. And he tells Caleb what he's in for. He's in for 5 trips in one. And we see those trips transpire throughout the course of the episode, because otherwise it would be a very dull par for the course episode. There's a big car chase, some more goons are chasing our heroes, they shoot at them, they blow some stuff up, they get away, and then that's like half the episode done already. So I was like, ugh, this is a weird one. This is a black sheep kind of episode. What's going on here? Then I looked up what those songs were. The first 2 were very obvious, so I got those, but the last 3, I had to look those up, and when I did, I understood what it was Westworld was going for here. So quick walkthrough of the genre trip that Caleb goes on. First, the really straightforward one, the film noir trip. Everything went black and white. We heard film noir music. This was original Ramin Djawadi music that he just composed. It sounded very Hitchcockian. It makes sense. This is a very Hitchcockian kind of plot. We've got a guy who's just kind of wandering aimlessly through life. Along comes this gorgeous femme fatale who's like, I'm going to open up your world to new ideas, and he follows her around and suddenly ends up being shot at every turn. That is straight out of Vertigo, straight out of North by Northwest. It's very Hitchcockian, so it fits that noir palette. That was the first step of the trip. Second step of the trip, also an obvious one, you have the Flight of the Valkyries playing. That's a little homage to Apocalypse Now. That's the movie that made that song famous, just movie-wise anyway. Remember, these are supposed to be from movies, all these musical cues he's hearing. And it plays during the action sequence where Dolores hands him a rocket and he's like, ooh, I'm gonna shoot this car now. Here I go. Apocalypse Now is about the horrors of war and how it messes with people's minds. Caleb, we know, is a soldier who has been to war and has a very messed up mind, and we see more and more of that as the episode goes on. The third trip, even though it was obvious what was going on in the scene, I didn't realize what movie it was, and it was from the 1970 movie Love Story. You can tell it's a very sweeping, romantic musical trip, and it's funny because the whole time Caleb is just staring at Dolores like, wow, she pretty. And Dolores' reaction is great because she's busy shooting some folks, and she just kind of looks at him and goes, oh God, and goes back to what she's doing. She can tell he's not in his right state of mind. And once I found out it was from Love Story, I looked up that movie to see if there were any connections I could find, and spoilers for this movie from 50 years ago, but the woman in Love Story dies at the end. So it's not a very happy love story at all. It should be called Sad Story or Toy Story 3. That was a great movie. So if this does end up being a thing where Caleb is like, I like this girl, let's start a romance, maybe this is pointing to signs that Dolores isn't gonna make it out alive if that ends up transpiring. The fourth trip is a song by Iggy Pop called Nightclubbin'. Again, I was not familiar with the song at all. I was just like, this is a weird song, but I don't know. When I looked it up, it is from the soundtrack to the movie Trainspotting, which I am familiar with. And Trainspotting is famous for, among many other things, the Choose Life monologue that Ewan McGregor delivers. If you haven't heard this monologue, just look it up, the Choose Life monologue. It's all about having choices and the free will to make your own decisions in life, and that is all about Westworld. So that is very fitting that they played a song from Trainspotting. Finally, I can't believe I didn't recognize it when I was watching the show. I think it's because there was no way I could possibly have foreseen that a show would start playing this song, but we got a piece of score, creepy techno score of The Shining. And The Shining, depending on how you want to interpret that ending, is about a man who has slowly gone crazy and doesn't realize that he has been in this place, in this hotel, for much longer than he thinks he has. And this whole scene is accompanied by some really frazzled flashbacks to Caleb's past that are just jumbled right now. We have no idea what's going on in them. We never got anything concrete. But from the looks of things, Caleb is not who he thinks he is, to the point where what little we know about his past is up for grabs. And that brings us to the other half of this episode, because I believe there is correlation here. The other half is an origin story of Enjolras Serac. I really hope I'm saying his first name right, man. That is a Enjolras, I think. I think that's the right way to do it. Sorry, Vincent Cassel. I love you. Serac and his brother lived in Paris, France, but Paris, France got blown up by a nuke of some kind or something. Well, Paris is off the grid now in this future. There ain't no Paris anymore. So the two brothers are geniuses, and they work together, and they're trying to build a god. And that's what Rehoboam ends up being. But they have to go through some, Mark 1, Mark 2, and all these orbs are named after the old kings of Israel. You got Saul, you got David, you got Solomon, and we know after Solomon comes Rehoboam. So they're inching ever closer to their final product. And they go to Liam Dempsey from Insight Inc. to get some venture capital. They help him out. They make him very, very rich, and he in turn gives them everything they need to build Rehoboam. But then there's a wrench thrown in the equation, because when it starts working the way they want and it starts predicting everything, they suddenly realize that there are people in the world, and I don't really grasp this concept yet. I feel like we're going to learn more about it, but there are people in the world who can't be pinned down by the algorithm. That's what I gather. There are people in the world who are, I don't know, maybe they're too free-spirited, maybe they're crazy, maybe they're a little bit of both, I don't know. Whatever it is, Rehoboam can't quite nail them down to a mathematical formula, and that pisses Rehoboam off, and it pisses the Serac brothers off, so they decide to deal with it. They build a facility where I don't know if it's kidnapping, I can't imagine how else they get these people there, but they bring these people to this facility, lock them up like they're patients in a mental hospital, and try to reprogram them so that they are more in tune with what Rehoboam wants. That is some scary shit. And the beauty of genre for me ended up being the parallels that are drawn between the humans in the real world and the hosts in Westworld, and how the humans are trapped in loops too. And just like the hosts, they are also brought to this creepy ass lab where some creepy ass dudes do creepy ass experiments on them to try to get them to be more in line with what they want. It doesn't get any more blatant than this, folks. We are prisoners just like the hosts are. The difference is Dolores unlocks the cage, and this was a startling move, because I thought that this was something that we weren't going to get to until at least the season finale, if not next year. But Dolores succeeds in breaking into the system using Liam Dempsey Jr.'s fingerprint thing on those folding tablets that I still can't figure out the physics of, but she uses his entryway to get into the system and divulge all of Rehoboam's secrets, and it tells the world, it sends text messages to all the world saying, hey, this robot thinks you suck and it wants you to die, more or less. And what we end up with is a riot worthy of the third act of Do the Right Thing, only with less pizza and more robots. Bernard manages to get away from Insight, but Serac's security team corners Dolores Connells, and he's all like, oh yeah, you got me, but I'm gonna blow this place up. So Connells is dead. Palm Clementieff, who was the head of security there, is also dead. She had, I think, 2 lines in this whole season, so it's kind of sad that they didn't use her more. She's cool. And now who knows where this is going to go. Like I said, the fact that the Rehoboam has been, out there, the secret's out there now, it's been essentially kind of defeated now. I don't know. We're in a strange place. So where's the rest of this season going? Well, if I had to make a prediction, I think it's safe to say at this point that all signs are pointing towards Caleb was inside that reprogramming center, and the memories he thinks he has are very, very wrong, and they're weird and scattered, and we're going to dive into more of that. We're going to find out what the deal is with Caleb's past, because Liam Dempsey Jr. seems like he knew who this dude was, and he's not a fan of him. So what's the deal there? Did Serac reprogram him, and why? I wasn't super clear on the ending. They got on a plane, and I'm not sure where they're going. Meanwhile, Serac's also on a plane, and he's all pissed off, and he's got a watch that shows him how Rehoboam is feeling. I'm still not 100% convinced that that dude is real. I don't know. We'll see what happens. But that was Westworld genre. What I thought was going to be my least favorite episode ended up being insanely interesting, and I can't wait to watch it again to see all the little nuances I missed, and then also with hindsight, once the season is over, to see how that all ties into what we'll inevitably learn about Caleb and Serac and that that creepy-ass reprogramming center. I'm not going anywhere near there. Anyway, that has been Westworld Season 3, Episode 5, Genre. I have been Andrew Fantasia. Thank you so much for tuning in. I'll see you here next time, and until then, adios.